What in the world am I doing? Welcome back, everybody, to another Purpose Served podcast episode. It's your legendary host, Daryl Wingfield. If you're new to this podcast is simply about inspiring you to be the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And on a spiritual level, in its most basic form, honoring the two greatest commandments, which is to love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Man, I want to talk about something that has been a relevant topic as of late for me with a decent amount of people that I've been talking to, especially for the kids that I've been training and even some adults. I always remind you guys, the things that I talk about, I'm no exception to the rule. These things apply to me as well. But along this journey of life, I dealt with these things head on as they came. And the one thing that is going to be the main topic at hand is talking about confronting challenges. And within this, I want to let you guys know what I learned from my journey of playing basketball and the real life lessons that it taught me. And for those that are new to this, basketball is what led me to start Purpose Served to begin with, which is so interesting. To me, it's so interesting. I would have never in my life thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. Honestly speaking, I would have never thought. But ultimately speaking, what I notice is people's tendencies to go for comfort and ease. And one of those things that they do, for example, with some of the players that I train, and this is something that when I was like their age, at like, for example, being like 12, 13, 14 years old, all the way up until like even my like freshman year of college, I took the same exact route of shying away from challenges instead of going towards them. So put this into context. You're playing sports, and the sports program for your school is a good one that you're going to. And you much rather go to another sports program that's they got a worse record. Usually the players aren't that good, and the players at the school that you're going to is good, but you don't want to deal with that because your ego is telling you that in another situation you can be the man. And this is a common thing. And this not only in the context of sports, but it's in all aspects. If people try to notice that, well, think in their head that a path is easier, they're going to go to take that like path of least resistance. But there's something really crucial in that, and a grave mistake that people overlook. And the mistake that they overlook is that the problem tends to follow you wherever you go. The kids that I'm training now, they wouldn't understand this, but due to the fact that I'm pretty sure the people that listen to this like aren't kids. If you are a kid, then this just take a deeper level of understanding. And the deeper level of understanding that you must ask yourself, if the problem does follow you wherever you go, is that problem external or internal? Does that problem lie in your environment and the people that's in the environment and the places that you find yourself? This is why the things that we go through for the most part is called cycles for a reason. And a lot of us are stuck in cycles. and we're trying to break the loop. But the only way to break the loop is changing the internal quality that you see the world through. That's the only way to break the loop. And understand that the problem lies within you. It's not the things that's following you. It's what's internal. And by changing what's internal, you then will get presented the same challenges that lie before you. But now, what decisions are you going to make to change the circumstances that you found yourself in? That's the most crucial thing about it all. Are you willing to make a change within yourself in order to change the world that's around you? Critical. Another part to the aspect of confronting challenges is the art of being resilient. And when I'm training, and all the things that I'm teaching the youth that's under me are things that I've experienced myself, and I put myself through myself. So I know these things work. I want to teach them things and tell them things that didn't work for myself. One of the things that I teach 3 things. And not just through words, but simply through actions. And these 3 things is repetition, consistency, and efficiency. Being disciplined is extremely important. Being disciplined teaches you the importance of self-control. It teaches you the importance of mind over matter. And it teaches you like that important lesson of how when something comes up and it's not going your way, for example, can you still stick to the grind and overcome the situation, even though in the present moment it's showing you something totally different. And in a basketball context, say for example, if you're like in the 4th quarter and it's 8 minutes left. I mean, you're down by 8 with like 2 or 3 minutes left. And that's not a situation that's favorable for you and your team. Can you fix yourself in your mind to do whatever it is that you got to do to make sure that your team secure a win? Can you better your teammates in a situation? And one of the ways that I teach repetition, consistency, and efficiency is something as simple as the name of the game, putting the ball in the basket. So when a kid comes up to me and say they want to work on his shot, the one thing that I teach them is just what you can the basics of what you can do to make shots. And starting on the basketball court, there's 5 different spots, right? You got the 2 corners, the 2 wings, and at the very top of the key where like the free throw line is at, that area. And make it 10 shots from those 10 spots. From inside the 3-point line and outside of the 3-point line. That's the repetitive part. The consistency is how often can you go through this repetition of shooting this. And the one thing that I notice is, this is just in general, life lesson. This is with any aspect. I'm just using basketball as the context of what I'm talking about. But this applies to, if you are studying for anything in school, whatever job that you're working at, whatever it is that you're doing in your free time, or most importantly, whatever it is that you feel as though bring you fulfillment and purpose. But repetition, consistency, and efficiency is important, and consistency is very, very important. Step 2 out of the 3 of the process. And are you doing this on the daily? Are you doing this weekly? Are you doing this like once a month 3 times a year. And I see kids here and there that just, they think that they want it really, really bad. And they don't. And I know they don't based off of their actions and what they do. November is a very, very important time when it comes to basketball, right? Because you got all of these kids with dreams and aspirations of making their school team, making varsity or making middle school or whatever it is. Those people that seem to not have been practicing and working on their game, they cram like they're studying for a test. That they didn't look over their homework, they wasn't paying attention in class or none of that. They know they got a test coming up in like 2 or 3 weeks, and they ain't doing nothing but slacking off and pushing it to the side until the day before the test. And then they realize they don't know nothing. And not only that, they realize that, oh man, I need to pass this because I got a failing grade in class in school. I was one of those students, by the way. Disclaimer. And they try to cram. There's a high percentage of, if you're choosing that route, you're going to fail that test tomorrow. And when it comes to these kids that just want to come up to me when it's like the end of October, and they got practice in 3 weeks, of what can I do to make the school team? And I want it really, really bad. And I'll be honest with them. And I say, you're not going to make your school team. It's not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why it's not going to happen. But the good thing is, you always got next year. And once you get the results, still go out there. Don't avoid going to that tryout and going through that crucible and going through that challenge. Don't avoid it. Confront it. Realize where your deficiencies are and go in the lab and work on it. And then start to put yourself in challenging environments within next year. And if you consistently do that, you will be good. You will be good. So going back to the foundation of that repetition, consistency, and efficiency. The consistency part is simply making those 10 shots around the perimeter. So like making 100 shots, that's a very, very, very low end and bare minimum of what a kid is capable of. For example, of shooting the ball better. Very minimum. And the goal with doing that, the long-term goal, is to be able to make those shots efficiently and not missing a lot of shots in between, like while you're shooting. So being able to string along 5 in a row, 6 in a row, 3 in a row even, and making more shots than you miss. That's the name of the game. But in order to do that, you got to strip everything down yet again to what that first thing is. And that first thing is being repetitive about what you're doing and knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And that's another thing that I teach these kids when I'm training them, is you need to know the purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing. Because a lot of times when we're going through life, we don't know why we do half of the things that we do. We don't know why we think half of the thoughts that we think. And we don't know why we have the feelings that we tend to have. This is why it's very, very important to know yourself. This is another thing that I mentioned on a previous podcast episode of being watchful as one of the most important qualities that you can have for yourself. Because on the deepest level, once you're watchful of yourself, your decision making, like, it starts to change. You're not going through life unconscious. And that's the Spirit of God moving through you, honestly speaking. And it's not you watching over yourself. It's something otherworldly watching over you that almost in a sense is like your guardian angel. But this is for those that pay really, really close attention to themselves and do the real inner work to trying to align their spirit up with God and the Son of God. And the next thing that I'm going to move on from being resilient is being willing to take risk. So, in the regards to me, when I graduated high school, I went to a college that at the time they didn't have a good record at all. In fact, I went to that school due to the fact that they had the worst record in their conference. And even on a deeper level, I wasn't even going to be playing regardless. I was going to be a tryout walk-on. But in my head, this team sucked so bad that I was guaranteed to play. And boy, was I wrong. I didn't even get a chance to try out. And the reason why I didn't get a chance to try out is because my grades were so bad. They were atrocious. I think I said that word right. Atrocious? I don't know. But they were terrible. And this built up a lot of problems in the back end that I was soon going to have to face and soon going to have to handle. I ended up transferring from that college because I was doing so poorly. I tried to go to another college to play basketball, and that wasn't working, and I ended up going to community college. By this point in time, I was indulging in a lot of things that was not helpful to my soul and to my spirit at all. And in fact, a lot of the stuff that I was doing, it caught up to me. So I ended up dropping out of college. I graduated in 2013, and by the fall of 2015, I was no longer a college student. I stopped going to school. Altogether, I was like, what's the point? Due to the fact that I was only going to college to play college basketball with a dollar and a dream, with no guarantee at all that I was actually going to play. And then once I realized that that window was not open, I stopped going. I got into some trouble. And yeah, by the end of that year, 2015, I dropped out. And also by the end of that year, I found myself on probation. And this is where I was at a crucible and a fork in the road in my life. I wanted to quit with this whole basketball dream that I had. I didn't know what else that I wanted to do, which a lot of athletes find themselves in, aspiring ones at that dedicated their life to the sport. And there's only a handful that actually get to cross over and make that hump. But for the most part, a lot of aspiring athletes that's trying to go pro, this is something that's very common with them, where they ultimately lose their sense of purpose in life and they get very depressed and down on themselves due to the fact that they put their all into this one thing, and this one thing ain't giving them what they was like looking for, that they felt was divine providence for them to have. Like, God, like, put this in front of me and I'm going to make it. I'm going to succeed. And that is a good mindset to have, but it's also dangerous at the same time. So I know what it's like to be there and at that point, because I was there for quite some time. I was there for a really, really long time. And during this year of probation, I came across a guy by the name of Brad Canis. And through him, I got the opportunity to go to Girona, Spain to play basketball in the year 2017. So I was on probation from 2015 to the year 2016. And in 2017, I found myself in the northern part of Spain. I never left the country before. And I got a one-way ticket, not knowing how any of this stuff worked. And which was nuts. And the crazy thing about this, right? When I first went out there, the day that I was supposed to go and live out my dream, I broke my phone, which had all my information to get to the hotel that I was staying at. All of it. Who I was supposed to contact once I got out there, and Barcelona, and that day was a disaster. Those next 24 to 36 hours were very, very crazy for me. I still to this day don't speak a lick of Spanish, and that was the first time where I experienced what it meant to follow my intuition, no matter what. Also, in this situation, I knew that if I really overthought the situation and what was at stake, I was going to have a mental breakdown. God honest truth. Nowadays, people can't live without their phone. They can't even go to their car without their phone. I left the country without my phone, without knowing nobody, honestly, on the other side of the pond, going into new territory. And I brought this story up so many times on this podcast, but I'll never forget this. When my mom asked me the most distinct question of my life, and she asked me when we was looking for my phone and it was about time for me to get to my gate, she said, "Are you going to stay or are you going to go?" Straight up like that. And I just chucked up the deuces and I turned around, thinking that this was one of the most craziest decisions that I ever made in my whole entire life. This is nuts. But I went with living out my dream. And boy, when I got over there, it was such a reality check. And it wasn't what I thought it would be at all. It was a great overall experience. And I'm happy that I did make that decision to begin with, because it taught me a lot about, like I said, the being able to take risk, being willing to take risk, no matter what the odds are stacked against you. And the one thing that I want you guys to know that made it this far along the podcast is just that failure is only in your imagination. It's not real. And you're going to have ups and downs along the journey. That's going to happen. There's no escaping that. There's no avoiding that. But there's two ways to look at this. You could look at it in one way as decay, or you could look at it in another way where it's just a simple process of growth. And an analogy that I could give for this and this whole journey of life is simply the 4 seasons that this earth consistently goes through. In the wintertime, everything is dying off. But during that process of everything dying off, it is preparing itself for new life to come into being. And this is when the spring comes along. And during this process, there's rain, there's wind, and what we consider bad weather. But it's what's needed for the growth, the storms. Just for the prime of life to come about for plants and trees. And that's the summertime, where the light is directly impacting nature. Then it goes through the process of preparing for the fall. And then it does it again. But all in all, it's just a process of growing. Death is included within that. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not, but it's not a permanent thing. It don't have to be. That ultimately is a choice. But if you have purpose deep down within you, you got to do whatever it takes to make sure that that purpose lives on. within you, not outside of you. Because as long as you keep that flame alive within you, then that life gets carried on no matter what soil that your feet is touching, no matter where you go. No matter where you go. And that's more important. That's really more important than any external factors that you might be facing and dealing with. It starts in your heart and mind first. It really does. And a lot of people, when they are confronted with challenges, they tend to flee far away from them and take the wide path of destruction, thinking that that's the way that they want to go. Not knowing that in the long run it's really going to cause you true misery and suffering internally from you knowing that there was a path that you were supposed to take that was extremely narrow due to the fact that it was only meant for you, but you didn't take it. You refused your calling. And this brings me to, it's about to get biblical. Y'all know it. The story of Jonah, the prophet Jonah, that got swallowed by the great fish. The reason why he got swallowed by the great fish is because he tried to flee from his purpose and preach it to the people in Nineveh. That ultimately there was a bigger picture at play that he was failing to recognize. Knowing that that calling was overwhelming, most likely, scary to look at because it was larger than himself. And it would have been easier to literally, which when he did, he headed in the total opposite direction of where he was supposed to go. He tried to get on the ship and go in the total opposite direction of where Nineveh was. And this caused a series of actions to happen with the people that he was on board with and nature itself. There was a crazy storm while he was on board. And he was on board with a bunch of pagans. These pagans recognized what was going on, and he recognized within this the act of God. Jonah knew what was going on, and he told him to throw him overboard. Just throw me overboard. That's going to solve all of this. And they were trying to fight really, really hard to get to the closest island or closest shore. But then they gave in because the more they kept fighting hard against the storm, the more that the storm got worse. So they threw him overboard. And this is when he was swallowed up by the whale. And once he got a second chance, and he really, really repented for his actions. And repent is pretty much turning away from sinning and missing a mark. And aligning yourself to the will of God. He was spit out on shore. And then after that, he went to preach to the people of Nineveh and saved many lives in that city. And they turned from their evil ways due to the fact of one man following his purpose. So you guys, I encourage you guys to confront the challenges that lie in front of you, but within you, essentially speaking. Because even in the story of Jonah, the real conflict wasn't with his external environment. It was really what was happening within him. And that's the one thing that I try to get these kids that I'm training to understand. And I'm not saying it because I'm above the law. I'm saying it because I took their same route. And it made me take the long way. And when I was their age, I wanted to be placed in a situation where I'm placed in now. Where basketball granted me to see places that I never thought that I would go and meet people that I never thought I would meet and ultimately changed my life. And the biggest thing that I want to say basketball helped me with is that it showed me that purpose is within everything. It's not just within the sport of basketball. That was that little small frame of reference that I looked at the world through. But purpose is within everything that's a part of God's creation, which is all things. Which is all things. And there's so many different ways, shapes, and sizes that you could go about living out your purpose. But notice the key words that I just said. It's an act of living it out, which means that it has to start from inside of you first. One of the quotes that I have been saying lately from Yeshua Christ himself is that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Another thing that he says is where your heart is, there your treasure will be. And there's a double meaning to that as well. Because if you have a wicked heart, no matter what, that's where you're going to find the treasure at. And a lot of people desire really wicked things. I'll say that there's only a handful of people that truly desire good for themselves and good for other people. Sift through all the distractions that's out here. Try to live out the truth. Be resilient. And don't let failure stop you from getting to where you need to go in this thing called life. And once you truly overcome the challenges that lie before you, you will be able to help your fellow man with the same challenges that you were able to overcome. If you guys go back and listen to, like, for example, Allegory of the Cave, that's a part of the thing that is the very last part of people making a way out of the cave, seeing the sunlight, coming back to the people to show them what they see. But it's hard to communicate that with people that never experienced that and came out the cave themselves. It's very hard. That's one of the challenges that I'm dealing with currently myself as we speak. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this podcast episode. And these were the lessons that I learned. Some of the lessons that I learned from basketball that applies to real life as well. In the next podcast episode, I want to talk about a special individual that I was going to talk about in this podcast, but I'm going to save it for the next one. Yeah, it's interesting how I came across this person. But until next time, I love y'all folks, man. I love y'all. I thank y'all for tuning in. I hope that the things that I'll be saying is actually helpful to you guys and not just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And yeah, that's it. Serve y'all purpose, man. Deuces.